G'day warbanders, and welcome back to another video where I'm looking at another dev diary for CK3, and this is specifically about the difficulty options they added. They finally listened to me, boys. They looked at my video and they're like, yes, warband plays, we agree with what you're saying, and we'll add a hard mode because, yeah, it's just funny because I feel vindicted. My last video on CK3 got a lot of hate because I was, critiquing little things I didn't like, and people don't like that for some reason. But I feel like, critique is healthy for game development. If you don't like critique, you're not really in favor of, a better game, I think. But yeah, on to the point is that Paradox here has acknowledged that the difficulty is too easy. And, this dev diary is just like, oh, Cons of the Step didn't do as well as we thought it'd do with the mixed reviews and all that. I think Cons of the Step is a great DLC. I have to make my own video on it, but I feel like the mechanics, they're alright. Again, it's a little bit too easy because, you just stack up herd and, you just conquer the world with these massive armies, bro. But still, I like the unique mechanics. I like the fertility mechanic. I like, migration. I like nomads. I always like playing as Mongols. So Cons of the Step was good, but I don't like it's too easy. So we're going to move on to the, player feedback here, which is, they're just sort of categorizing all the feedback, which I think is a good thing, looking at it and cataloging it, and triaging it. And the main issue for the Nomad DLC was, stability, other, and balancing. So you can see that there's a lot of crashes. Paradox still fucks up with the bugs and crashes a lot. Maybe it's people's PCs or maybe it's Paradox. I have no idea. But it's probably Paradox because I just feel like the CK3 engine is pretty bad. But yeah, I just want to get to the main point where we get to the difficulty options. And now this is the meat of the dev diary, which is, the balancing is wonky, they added a hard mode. So this is the acknowledgement that the game is too easy. So all the people are saying, it's a roleplay game, what are you doing? Like, dude, they literally listened to me and added a hard mode. So, of course, it's going to be a band-aid issue. This is where it changes. So add some penalties to schemes and knights. Players get heavier penalties for existing alliances, less bonuses from desired alliances, yet alliances were way too easy to get. Schemes too easy to just kill AI in mass if you spec into intrigue just a little bit too much. AI doesn't pay for core positions. Yeah, I can see that. AI doesn't pay for embarkation because the AI has a really big problem with managing its money. They always seem to go into debt, and when they go into debt, that just makes their realm way more worth. So these little things where they have to pay for stuff, these minimal costs, it's a good thing. AI pays less for activities. Okay, vassals likely to join factions versus player based on opinion level. So factions are going to be more dangerous, but more player specific. The player has a lower chance of becoming a conqueror on hard and very hard. Yes. I like that because why should I be the conqueror? That's just going to make the game way more easier because the conqueror trait gives you lots of stats. It's crazy. So that's better on the AI to have that. The AI has an easier time revoking titles and retracting vassals on it. So this is basically just making the AI more stable compared to the player. So that's good. I like stable realms because if AI realms are not stable, they're very easy just to pick apart and just do some stuff. So I like that they're sort of tweaking those areas with the vassals and it's making it more stable. And people wanted a passive herd decay mechanic, which I understand because you just accumulate herd pretty quickly and it's just another currency. I do like Cons of the Steps, as I said before. I do like the unique mechanics, but there's still some kinks in there that, it's all about bonuses. It's all about acquiring, getting more powerful. It's still in that game design mindset of we have to make the player powerful at all times because that's what Paradox is doing. Always focusing on player, OPness. And this is the first step in adding difficulty. I actually I actually said on the forum I was going to boycott this until they added hard difficulty. Like I was going to boycott, you know, the China DLC, but now they listen to me. I go, okay, you added a hard mode. That's what I wanted. But you know, still, it's a first step in making the game harder. And I'll just show you guys like the hate I got for pointing this out, like the easy mode. You know, CK3 is a role-playing game. We know that. If you're not going to role-play, min-max every decision. I'm not min-maxing. What did I say in the video? I was min-maxing. If there was a God Emperor King who had no personal biases and knew exact information about everyone. Again, I'm not saying perfect information is great. Where did I say that in the video? I actually like that mod that sort of obscures the information and makes it harder, because that feels a bit more role-playing to me. You mentioned handicapping yourself. Yeah, I did say that. And I assume you meant making suboptimal decisions. Yeah, because when you're role-playing, you have to make suboptimal decisions. But I feel like you can still add role-playing, you know, with optimal decisions. It's not like they're mutually exclusive, you know? So I just don't see this argument here. I think that was the developer's original intent, not min-maxing every decision. If that was their intent, they would hide all the bonuses. They would hide all the percentages, and you know, when you take an event and it tells you what you get, they should hide all that if that wasn't the intention. But no, Paradox wants you to min-max because they show all the stats. They show all like the best stats. So if you want to find a good character, you just click by, you know, stewardship or intrigue. It's like the game makes it's like, if you want to find like a good marriage partner, you filter by inherited traits. So it's like the quality of life sort of lends itself to min-maxing. Like you just cannot avoid it. He says, I love a good min-max campaign in Vicky 2, Vicky 3. Yep, that's a pretty good interest. But yeah, looking for that experience in CK3, I'd probably say play a different Paradox game. So this is a bit of a cop-out, okay? I'm telling me to play a different game because the game design is terrible is not a really good argument. CK3 should be a strategy game first and a role-play game second. Because when you're saying role-playing game, does that mean a shitty role-playing game? Because that's what CK3 is, you know, sort of heading towards. Okay? Just because it's a role-play game doesn't mean it has to be an easy game. You know, role-playing games, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, they can be brutal. Okay? If you play like games like Pathfinder, like tabletop role-playing games, like I actually was playing a Dungeons & Dragons game a couple years ago, and I specifically remember getting just rolled by the NPCs. You know, we all got killed, we all got wiped, and the DM had to say, "Oh shit, you guys are getting killed, man. We got to just wind it back up, or let you guys live." Because the game was that hard. Because the game's random, and CK3 is not random enough. It's not really like similar to that role-playing experience where, like, you know, there's actually consequences to your actions. There's actually, you know, challenge. There's actually, you know, things that can kill you. And I don't really see that, like, this argument where saying it's a role-playing game, just ignore all the bad game design decisions. I recently did a Charles the Bold run in an attempt to form Mega HRE, had my plague set to random and spawned 10 years after game start. Completely wrecked me. Yeah, I have my plague set to max, bro. I don't care, like, if plagues are annoying, like, they just add more challenge because you actually have to deal with it. And just like, oh, so what? My God King dies. Like, who cares, bro? Like, literally. And I don't make God Kings. I literally don't. I just pick a random character on the map and I just play to his strengths. If he's an ambitious character, he's going to be expanding his territory. If he's not, he's going to be sitting there, you know, being a loyal dog to his, you know, to his liege. One Proud Bavarian's CK playthroughs are often heavily roleplay focused and they're very entertaining. I'm not saying I don't do that. Again, a lot of people sort of mischaracterize me and say I'm not a role player. I roleplay when the game allows me to, when the mechanics make sense, you know. I like games where the mechanics lend to the roleplay and I don't have to make stuff up in my head all the time, because if I have to make stuff in my head up 100%, like, it's, you know, I could just play Dungeons and Dragons, you know. I don't have to play CK3 for that. I hate it when people make critiques and don't offer suggestions or alternatives. I did in the video, bro. I offered making a hard mode, which they added. I offered, you know, what you said there in the comment, mentioned Knights of Honor 2 AI. that tries to stop you from winning, because it does. It creates coalitions. It goes after you when you're weak. In CK3, it just sort of sits on its own. But a good thing I've noticed about the hard mode is like the AI has become more aggressive. So I'm actually getting declared war on a bit more. So that's actually really good. So that's why I'm turning on the hard mode and enabling the Dark Ages mod, which sort of boosts the difficulty up way more. Because I just get bored. If you have no challenge in a game, I just get bored. And again, people go, oh, you're a min-maxer, bro. You're a min-maxer. No, I'm not. I'm not. Okay, I roleplay. It's still too easy. So that's a flawed argument. I don't believe what CK3 is about. So in spirit of not being that type of person, I hate like to suggest, again, telling me to play different games when the game's, lacking. Look, I don't like EU4. I do like it. I like playing multiplayer. Right? I feel like it's really challenging multiplayer. But EU4, I'm waiting for EU5 now. And Old World's a pretty good game too. Has a decent AI. Actually, really good AI. I have to get back to playing that. It's a Civ-like. Very nice game. Again, I wish CK3 could add that AI. Again, I'm not asking for like a really complex AI that does shit. I want an AI that acts to its personality, that also acts to, building stuff in their realm. So actually making sensible decisions, actually, building men at arms that are strong for them instead of just like randomly doing stuff. That's how the AI works right now. Just randomly does stuff. I'm not saying you do this, but people will pick noble veins every time, turn plagues off, disinherit or execute their heirs, spam Vang vets, get the by the sword cultural tradition, reload and save scum, then wonder why the game. I don't do any of these things. The only thing I did was this, probably noble veins, and I stopped picking that because it just gives you way too much shit. Again, all the dynasty legacies are just like more bonuses, more modifiers. Really, they should not be like that. I feel like they should go back to the CK2 system where you had to acquire the dynasty legacies through, fucking other women, with the bloodlines, the bloodline system. So I feel like that was a bit more active instead of just like, where you just passively gained your dynasty legacies over time. That's just sort of boring to me. I don't get to what's supposed to be so bad about this statement. Like, yeah, once you put hundreds or thousands of hours in a game, I understand it's all mechanics. It's going to be easy. Yeah, but I feel like you can make a game hard or challenging regardless of your playtime. And again, look at games like XCOM, for instance. XCOM's a great example because XCOM is challenging throughout its, playthrough. Throughout. It doesn't get any easier. It just gets harder and harder and harder. That's why I think CK3 should be like a curve. It shouldn't, the curve shouldn't be going down, okay, constantly. It should be going up and down, the difficulty. It shouldn't be constantly down through the ages. So I don't get this argument. Oh, since I put a couple hundred hours, that means that means I'm at fault. Okay, so blaming the player is not a good thing. As a game developer, you don't blame players for your game design faults. Okay, if your game is built around, being too easy, then that's a game problem, not me. But yeah, guys, I thought I'd just make this sort of video because some of you are like, oh, the game is too easy, so that's fine. But then they actually addressed my concerns. And then they add a difficulty mode, and hopefully we get more of that stuff. Hopefully we get more difficulty options. Hopefully they start tweaking the AI after the China DLC. And what I'm looking at so far, the China DLC is looking pretty sweet. I think it's going to be good. I've looked at the dev diary. I'll make a separate video on that. I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited for that one. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this discussion video, please like and subscribe. I do like making these. And I'm making more CK3 content in the future. I don't make content, again, I said in the last video, I don't make content about a game I don't like. I do like Crusader Kings 3. Let me get that out of the way first. I like Crusader Kings 3. But there's just certain issues that keep popping up 5 years in development, like difficulty. Okay. But they made a hard mode. It's good. All right, boys. See you. Bye.